Hey beer tubers, it's Ryan back with another episode of San Diego Beer Vlog. Thanks for joining me. Be looking at my second beer from Hair of the Dog. They're a brewery up in Portland, Oregon, and this is their Blue Dot. I don't know how well you can see that on the camera. This is their Blue Dot. They call this a double India Pale Ale, although the ABV is only 7%, which to me is just a regular IPA. But maybe they've hopped it up a whole bunch and therefore it's like hopped like a double IPA. I don't know. We're going to find out. I've never had this beer before. I've heard a lot of good things about it. I finally found a fresh bottle of it. All their bottles for this beer will say a season in the year. In this case, this is winter 2011. So this is about as fresh as I've seen it recently. The previous bottles I saw were summer 2010 during the fall, so I figured that's a little past its prime. So I'm glad to see a fresh batch of this out. And I'm going to see how this compares to the San Diego IPAs. First off, this thing is very, very hazy. This beer is it's fairly cool right now. Took it out of the fridge maybe like 10 minutes ago. Decent amount of carbonation coming up. Just a very orange beer. Just straight orange. Very, very, very hazy. Getting about 2.5 fingers. Nice, really bright white head. Mostly small bubbles on there. Let's get the aroma on it. Oh yeah, that's the aroma I like on an IPA. Very pungent hop character on there. I mean, this is big time tropical fruits on this one. You're definitely getting that mango and pineapple character on there. Just big time. Oh yeah, there's a little bit of like sweet orange in there. Maybe a little like mandarin, kind of like a mandarin orange, I guess you'd say. Really nice nose, not getting any malt character whatsoever. Just straight up amazing smelling West Coast style IPA, that's for sure. Yeah, this is what I like to smell on an IPA. This is my favorite style, so I'm ready to dig into this thing. Cheers. Oh yeah, that's one bitter IPA. Yeah, a lot of bitterness up front. The bitterness, though, is different from the aroma. They must really dry hop this beer because the aroma is amazing. The hop character I'm getting up front first sip isn't as complex as that aroma. I'm actually getting like a bitter grapefruit into maybe like a pininess in there as well. But yeah, first thing, boom, good amount of bitterness. It's there, front of the tongue, mid-tongue is still there, back of the tongue it hangs around. There is some malt in there, but it's not much. I mean, I can see why they call this a double IPA because it's definitely hopped like one. And in a sense reminds me of Green Flash's West Coast IPA, which is kind of similar to that 7 but below 8% IPA, but just hopped to very high IBU levels. I don't believe they say the IBUs on this bottle. They don't, but I'll have to check the website. It's got to be up there. I know it's only 7%, so the hop character is going to be more forward, but it's got to be at least well above 70 IBUs for this thing. This is it's pretty bitter beer, but it's a smooth beer. It leaves a dry finish with all that hop character. That's what it tends to do, and the malt base is just letting those hops do their thing. Now, the more I sip on this one, the more I get like that bitter grapefruit peel kind of character coming out, and then I get this kind of like a little bit of like a spice. Like not a peppery note, but just kind of that hop spice, or maybe something you get from rye malt. That kind of character comes into play. I think they're, let me see if this mentions anything about the malt. Oh yeah, it says made with organic Pilsner malt, rye malt, and a combination of intense hop varieties. Interesting. Yeah, I'm definitely picking up that rye malt. Do get some spice in there. It could be possibly from the hops, but I'm not sure what varieties they're using. So it sounds like it's just really basic malt bill. It's probably why it's So very orangey, just probably mostly Pilsner, and the rye gives it maybe some of that color in there. Not a very dark beer. But hops, I'm starting to pick up some pininess in there as well. I have a feeling that they're doing a lot of Centennial late editions, maybe because you get that tropical fruit note. It's real intense. So maybe some Centennial and maybe like a Simcoe. Simcoe can kind of go between like piney kind of bitterness into that kind of bitter grapefruit aroma or taste. So I have a feeling they're probably using those two varieties in this beer, and maybe a few more. Body on this one's medium body. Kind of what you expect with an IPA. Good amount of lingering bitterness actually. Lingering bitterness and a dryness. Pretty much standard for a true like San Diego style IPA. And this is definitely a San Diego style IPA. I mean, it's sure West Coast, but San Diego specific. I've had a lot of IPAs in San Diego that remind me of this one. The biggest difference being with this one is I do get a little alcohol on there, which is kind of a little disappointing. I like a good IPA when it's 7% to hide the alcohol really well. This is, I mean, it's not overly present, but I definitely taste it more than I kind of expected for such a hoppy beer, because it is a bitter hop bomb. It maybe can use a little something extra in there to maybe kind of help cover up that kind of alcohol character. Maybe like a little sweeter note, maybe just a touch of like a lighter crystal malt. So I think with Blue Dot, I'm going to go with an A. It's for me right between an A minus and an A. I'm going to give it an A because of the hop character and kind of the character of this beer. Just reminds me a lot of good San Diego IPAs. So that kind of boosts it up to that just A level. It's definitely an excellent beer, no question. It's going to be, I mean, if you're a hophead and you like West Coast style beers, I can't imagine this being worse than a B plus for you. It's got a ton of bitterness. If you're a hophead, you're going to love that. You know, it's really low on the malt character. The malt's just there to support the hops from going too bitter on you. But I'm going to give it just not quite to the A plus range because the alcohol is on there. It is a really, really, really dry beer, and there's the malt character. I would like a little something more going on with the malts, just a touch more, just to kind of balance out a touch more in the end. Because back at the end, you're kind of waiting for like just a little like maybe malt complexity in there. But this one's definitely a showcase of the hops, and I like the hops they use for this one. Not entirely sure which those are, so it's gonna wrap it up for Hair of the Dog's Blue Dot Double IPA. I wouldn't call it a double IPA though. I've only reviewed 2 on the show, but I've had some of the other beers. I need to get them on, get them reviewed, because they do some fantastic stuff up there in Oregon, and it's a great beer scene up there as well, and they're part of that. So that's going to wrap it up today. Until next time, please comment and subscribe. Cheers.